I've been playing RPGs back since the NES days in the 1980s. I grew up on them. And many people have asked me over the years, like, hey David, what would you say are like the best RPGs of all time? And I'm telling you right now, it is a very difficult question to answer. There are just tons of fantastic RPGs out there from all sorts of different franchises and genres, but here I really did try to put my nose to the grindstone and come up with what I really think entails the best that the genre has to offer. Hi there everybody, I'm David, and if you're new to the channel, please be sure that you subscribe for some more top 10s, news, and reviews, and smash that like button to show your love. And now, I want to tell you what I think are the top 10 best RPGs of all time. First up at number 10, we have Star Ocean 2 R. Released for the PS4, Nintendo Switch, PS5, and PC. What an absolutely pleasant surprise this one was. Star Ocean has always been kind of like a niche series where we got one release per console generation, and they were never exactly complete blowouts. But shortly after going back to the basics with Star Ocean 6, they really doubled down on that philosophy by remaking the absolute best game in the entire series. It has all the charm, breadth, and depth of the original game, along with quality of life additions, like fast travel, cutscene skipping, and the ability for your back row party members to be able to pitch in and kick some ass during battles too. I really truly do think that JRPGs were waning until Square hit upon that $1 million idea with the HD 2D, and that is single-handedly powered through this renaissance that we are currently in now. So here's hoping for even more great remakes and HD 2D RPGs coming on down the pike in the upcoming years. Number 9, Chained Echoes, released for the Nintendo Switch, PS4, Xbox, and PC. We've had some absolutely killer RPGs come out the last couple of years, but who knew that the best one of them would come from one man? Chained Echoes deserves all the hype and applause that it is getting because I haven't had this much fun with traditional RPG in years. This takes the best of the classics of the SNES age, but adds in a modern touch, as well as some really cool twists on the battle system, where you kind of use like a tag team method to take down enemies while keeping the bosses inside the combat meter. Evoking the 90s era and truly channeling Final Fantasy VI goodness, this hits all the nostalgia notes in all the right ways. The bonus board allows for tons of challenges, there's a class system, skill trees, hidden areas, a gripping storyline, and most badass of all, you get to control mechs, where you can fly across screens that you could only previously run across. I do hope that all the big boys are watching, those big publishers out there, because this is the return to the past that I would love to see in future games. And hey y'all, if you are liking this, please be sure to smash that like button and subscribe for some more great content. And now for number 8, Trials of Mana, released for the PS4, Switch, and PC. This originally released for the SNES as Seiken Densetsu 3, but never in the West, and this remakes the original game from the ground up. And it might as well just be an entirely new game too, because Square put forth that effort to make this completely something else. They've rebalanced it, improved everything under the hood, and added a ton of quality of life improvements, and it really does show. Nowadays, many new games feel like such serious business, with cinematic movies and so much styling that you almost feel like you're watching a game rather than, playing it, but this is a refreshing throwback to a simpler time. For those of you who never did play the original back on the SNES, you compose a party of 3 heroes from a possible 6, then you traverse the world, restoring the mana stones, changing up your classes, kicking ass, and saving the mana tree. As far as I'm concerned, it is the pinnacle of the Mana series. It has a ton of replayability and is not to be missed, and I am so looking forward to Visions of Mana coming out this summer. Number 7, Golden Sun 1 and 2, released for the Game Boy Advance and Nintendo Switch. Now, these aren't just the best RPGs on the Game Boy Advance, they're actually some of the best RPGs ever made, and Golden Sun 2 is a direct sequel to the first game, finishing out its story and following the exact same characters, so I do feel like they both need to be included here alongside one another. I mean, if the games were released today on modern hardware, they would have just been one big game after all. They both take place in the land of Wayard, where synergy rules the roost. This is a turn-based RPG with a class system and lovable characters, but it also sports some of those devious, brain-teasing puzzles you've ever seen in gaming. because synergy actually acts as magic inside battle, but whenever you're outside battle, on the field, you can use it to solve puzzles by dousing flames, freezing puzzles, moving pillars, catching objects, or growing vines, among all sorts of other things. This truly is a living, breathing world, and it certainly deserves a remake, truly combining them into one game once and for all. Number 6. Lunar 1 and 2, released for the PS1. Kinda like the Golden Sun duology, this one needs to be re-released, and while Golden Sun 1 and 2 followed one another, Lunar 1 and 2 actually take place 1,000 years after each other, and I adore this duology. It's just kind of a shame that they're so stuck in the PlayStation, but as far as I'm concerned, these two were game changers for me, because they really did teach me what an RPG could be, with lifelike, funny, and compelling characters, a beautiful world to explore, a riveting storyline, voice acting, and music that still gives me chills to this day. These games just have it all. Then there's a super unique battle system, which is turn-based, but it's also position-based. It's almost like a miniature strategic battle within each encounter. As you move about the battlefield, positioning your character just so, in order to get as close to the enemies as possible, while also staying far enough away to avoid their attacks. And even though I did play both of these games well over 25 years ago, they just really stick to me. They are both fantastic. Number 5. The Xenoblade Chronicles Trilogy, released for the Nintendo Switch. If you only need one reason to buy a Nintendo Switch, this trilogy, right here, is your reason. When the first game exploded onto the scene back in the Nintendo Wii, I actually considered it to be one of the greatest games ever made, and I even imported it over here from Europe, and I modded my Wii in order to play it, and I did for a week straight until I beat it. So I was stoked when the second game came out, and while they did change quite a few things up and introduced a gacha system, I still did enjoy it for what it was. But the third game went back to its roots with a spellbinding storyline involving countries locked into a never-ending war, along with characters who have a shelf life on, their life. Everyone is relatable and endearing, and the world is just absolutely massive. So if you're looking for a game series to just lose yourself into, look no further than these. Number 4. Final Fantasy Tactics, released for the PlayStation and remastered for the PSP. Back in the day, strategy RPGs just really didn't exist on the NES and SNES. We maybe had like one. So even though I was 15 when this first came out, it was actually the first strategy RPG that I ever played, and it single-handedly made me fall in love with the genre. To this day, I still believe that it hasn't ever really been topped, and it is the creme de la creme of all tactical RPGs. I have played through this more times than I can count, with all sorts of different challenges and restrictions, and it just never gets old. Introduced in the land of Ivalice, this tells a story of political intrigue, backstabbing, friendship, and family. As you travel across the lands, you'll get to fight the battles with all sorts of different job classes that the seminal series is so well known for. Let's just really hope and pray that the much-rumored remake is right around the corner. Number 3. Dragon Quest V, released for the SNES, PS2, Nintendo DS, and mobile. Here we have my favorite Dragon Quest game, which unfortunately languished in Japan for far too long until it was finally fan-translated, and then officially released for the Nintendo DS. The story follows a little boy who travels with his father before 10 years pass and then you grow into a teenager, and you get to see the entire world change in that time. And here you're also introduced to the monster capturing system, as well as the wagon used to hold multiple party members. And it's also here that you get to choose your wife and get married, as well as travel by ship, before 10 more years pass and then you have kids. The world is so fun to explore, and it's really neat to see how towns, dungeons, and even minor characters change over the 20 or so years in the game. It is arguably the most story-heavy Dragon Quest game, and it introduces monster capturing here for the first time a good 5 years before Pokemon was ever even existing. So, if you're down for a heart-wrenching story, then look no further than this. Number 2. Final Fantasy IX, released for the PS1, PS3, and 4, Xbox, Switch, PC, and mobile. I constantly waffle back and forth over what my favorite Final Fantasy is, but I really just can't go wrong recommending this one to you, as it is an absolute classic and the culmination of what the series is really all about. It is glorious, and they brought the crystals back with a vengeance. Here, we are treated to a love letter of all the games that came before it, with nods and references to them, and the battle system reverts back to a 4-person party, with a simple yet ingenious skill system where you learn skills based upon what you have equipped. The soundtrack is whimsical, and the storyline is moving, with tons of humor thrown in from all the lovable characters. And I also really enjoy how each of them have predetermined job classes, and how the world really does feel like it's kind of like on the cusp of the age of exploration and discovery, because once you leave the Gaia continent, the rest of the planet is just pretty much unknown, and it's so much fun to go and explore it and learn all about it with your characters. And finally, number 1, Chrono Trigger, released for the SNES, PS1, DS, PC, and mobile. The summer between middle and high school for me was probably like the best year of my life. I was out of that god-forsaken hellhole that they call middle school, and I knew that I wanted to make a change, and I wanted to reinvent myself for my entry into high school. So over that summer, I vowed to myself that I would change, and I began weightlifting. And as my goal to myself, I said I was going to be getting into shape, and if I did do that weight training, I would let myself play Chrono Trigger. And that definitely incentivized me to get into shape, because I did not want to miss one single solitary day with this game. I mean, when the creators of Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest both joined forces, you know that you have a masterpiece on your hands. Getting rid of random encounters was a stroke of genius. And here, many times the enemies are just kind of playing around when you stumble across them. Also, the concept of field placement and hitting adjacent enemies first occurred here as well. The storyline is tight, spanning multiple time periods, and I cannot overstate just how much this masterpiece revolutionized the entire genre. So these 10 RPGs really do represent the greatest RPGs of all time to me. But now, I want to hear from you. What do you think are the 10 greatest RPGs of all time? And do you agree or disagree with me? Let me know in the comments. And if you like what I do here on the channel, please head on over to the Patreon side for early access to my videos, as well as behind the scenes photographs. The link to it is over in the video description. And as always, please like, comment, and subscribe, and have a good day.